Usually when someone mentions the best episodes of Degrassi, they usually speak about the most controversial episodes. An episode that comes to mind is Accidents Will Happen, when Manny accidentally gets pregnant because Craig accidentally forgets to wear a condom. And at first, Manny is happy to be back with Craig and optimistic about having the baby until she really thinks about it and decides she wants to get an abortion.
I'm getting an abortion. You can't.
This is a great episode that shows the consequences of having non-protected sex in high school and having Emma as a best friend. Another later episode that may come to mind is Bittersweet Symphony, which is the episode where Cam commits suicide at school.
Campbell Saunders is dead.
The raw reaction from all the characters, mostly Eli and Maya, is memorable as hell, and the overall episode has some pristine acting in it. But usually the episode that is unanimously well known as the best Degrassi episode, as well as the most popular Degrassi episode, is Time Stands Still. I don't even really need to explain this episode to you. I'm sure you know how vital this plotline was to the series as a whole. And it really delved into how teacher neglect and bullying can affect the students' mental health.
It takes two to tango.
Sir.
You don't like him, and he doesn't like you. So I suggest you try harder to get along.
Time Stands Still is still remembered as the episode where Jimmy, aka Drake, was shot, which unfortunately leaves him in a wheelchair for the rest of the series.
Jimmy?
But something that isn't remembered too much about this episode is the B plot. Of course, I'm talking about the Joey selling his house storyline. So Joey used to date Sid, or Sydney. Sid is short for Sydney.
This was a mistake.
Last season, he basically cheats on her with Caitlyn. So now Caitlyn and Joey are dating, and all is well in that department. But now Sid, who sells banks or whatever else, offers to help Joey sell his house because Craig reached out to her because he really cares about the house. So curious Caitlyn comes in and decides to go behind Joey's back and buy the house from Sydney.
Knock, knock.
Oh.
And instead of being grateful that he doesn't have to move and potentially make his children switch schools, instead Joey's like,
This is about me raising my own family and running my own business.
oh, also, meanwhile, kids are dying. This storyline is boring already, but if it was in another episode like any other episode, it probably would have fit a lot better. There's not even a real on-screen conclusion to this plot.
I'm on my way. We have to get to Degrassi now.
And yep, that's it. And it's like, if you're not going to have a conclusion to the plot on screen, why even waste our time in the first place? This is the only thing about this episode that prevents me from calling this the overall best Degrassi episode. However, there's one more episode that is just slightly better.
Guys, he's coming!
Take on Me is the most simple episode of Degrassi ever. It's probably one of the only episodes in the entire show, past like the first couple of episodes in season 1, when someone who has never watched a single second of the show could sit down and watch the entire episode without being confused at all. Unlike your usual episode of Degrassi, which starts out with some hint at what the theme of the episode's gonna be, Ellie's walking into detention, snapping the rubber band on her wrist, and Mr. Raditch greets the delinquents in detention.
Good morning, students. Glad you could all make it on a beautiful Saturday.
In all honesty, most of these students are actually good, except Sean. Another element that makes this episode so good is the previous episodes that came before it. Now, like I said, previously, you don't really need to have watched any of the episodes to enjoy this episode. But unlike other teen shows or even seasons of Degrassi, it's actually shown why every one of these students are here in detention. Sean started turning to the dark side at the beginning of the season because he started hanging out with Alex, Jay, and that random black dude who dated Liberty off screen. They've been stealing stuff all around the school and even stealing from the Dot.
Go away.
Emma.
Are you gonna tell the manager what you've got in your jacket?
You son of a bitch.
However, the most shady thing that Sean did during this whole time period was steal Snake's laptop while he was openly diagnosed with cancer. So Sean has detention for 8 weeks.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Jimmy and Toby, on the other hand, are dumbasses. So after Jimmy dubs Toby in the hallway, he wants to get back on Jimmy's close friends list.
Man, I don't get it. Jimmy used to be my friend.
Yeah, but that was before your hot step sizzle dumped his ass sizzle.
God, I should kick your ass just for saying that.
Jimmy's also going to this rap concert on Saturday and bringing all his friends. So Toby comes up with the idea to hack into the school database in order to give Jimmy an 88.
Peace.
Maybe he's trying a little too hard.
Curious. Can you explain to me why I'm logged on here already?
So they get caught and get detention.
You're a fake computer hacker, you're a fake rap fan. You're just 100% fake.
I got fake people showing fake love to me.
When Ellie explains to everyone why she ended up in detention, she says,
I skipped class. What? I didn't feel like going.
Wow, it's a great story, Ellie.
but if you read between the lines and infer a little bit, she's been having issues at home and started cutting herself. Then Paige found out, and apparently other people in the school heard rumors about it too. So I'll assume that Ellie just didn't want to go to class because of that. Oh, and Hazel was just looking at porn in class. Degrassi is a very dark show in tone, especially in the earlier seasons, but this episode manages to balance the dark tone with the lighthearted moments and cringe as well. Mr. Simpson is also in this episode and proves why he is undoubtedly the best teacher at this school.
Oh, come on. What's the worst that any of them have ever done?
Now that all the preliminary stuff is out of the way, let's get into some of the dynamics of these characters. Toby and Jimmy. Toby and Jimmy are not very friendly with each other after Jimmy and Ashley broke up. And to be honest, other than Rick, the only person Jimmy consistently acts mean towards is Toby. During this episode, all of the characters steal the janitor's keys and go up to the roof of the school. I'm up in this bitch. But Jimmy accidentally drops the keys when they're all trying to run back into their classrooms before Raditch knows that they left. So Raditch asks everyone who took the keys.
Mr. Raditch.
I did it. I took the keys.
From this moment on, Jimmy and Toby are pretty cool, even though they still don't show that much. Hazel versus everybody. In my 2006 review, I said that this is probably Hazel's best episode, and some people disagreed, and that's fair. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one. The reason why I personally believe that this is Hazel's best episode is because this is the only episode that tries to add some depth to her character. She doesn't have many storylines that are unique to just her, unless you count that one from season 2. Hazel's really only known in Degrassi as Paige's friend.
Why are you here? Paige pull your puppet strings? Make you dance?
Paige can't make me do anything.
And there's a whole nother issue I could discuss about Hazel being the token black girl character, but that's a really long topic, and Hazel isn't the only character in this show that suffers from this, unfortunately. To be honest, Hazel should have gotten more focus as a character after this episode, but hey, I'm only talking about this episode. Jimmy versus Sean. This is the best rivalry in all of Degrassi because the hatred here is so organic.
I really don't like that guy.
There's not a real specific moment that started this whole feud between Jimmy and Sean. At first, Jimmy was making fun of Sean for getting love back. Then eventually they had a fight at school. After that, Sean kissed Ashley while she was still dating Jimmy. Then next season, Jimmy likes Ashley again, but Sean asks Ashley out on a date.
Ash and I are a thing again?
Really?
Yeah, really.
Guess I'll have to ask her that when I take her out on Friday.
And whenever they try to be nice to each other, it just never works. Except for in this episode, because they're actually bonding. And by the end of the episode, they're actually somewhat cool.
Sean. What's up, man?
Good to see you.
Relationships. I just lumped all the love stuff together, partially because Jimmy and Hazel's relationship is a little less important in the grand scheme of things. But basically, when they're on the roof, Jimmy finds this necklace and gives it to Hazel.
It's pretty.
And they kiss. The other relationship formed in this episode is Ellie and Sean, who also complement each other well. Both characters are in a bad situation at the moment. Ellie's mom is an alcoholic.
A good drunk is fun. A bad drunk wants to have a fight.
And Sean's currently hanging out with a bunch of thieves. Both characters might not be suitable matches for other people at school, but they're perfect for each other. I also think Sean and Ellie are a way better couple than Emma and Sean, but that's a conversation for another day. And just when you think, wow, what a great episode of Degrassi, I'm really happy with what they did. Plot twist! Ellie's been recording some parts of detention, and everyone's really mad at her about it.
Why would you tape us like that?
Not cool, Ellie.
Like, guys, it's not that serious. What the fuck is she gonna do with the audio? But yes, it's very weird. Sean does end up forgiving her, and they begin dating at the end of this episode. When I say this episode is simple, I mean that shit.
Own that shit.
It's the best display of what Degrassi should be. A teen show with uncomfortable topics and cringeworthy, secondhand embarrassing moments.
Satisfied?
Yeah.
What's wrong with your face?
On the flip side, Degrassi should always be about building character bonds, progressing storylines, and it should have some lighthearted moments thrown in there. If you like this video, then you could like this video, but I guess you don't have to.
Okay.
Don't be shy. Subscribe to that guy.